Okay, we're here with an intake session with a lovely, can I say your name?
Yeah.
Okay, Zoli Lake. And she spelled it for me when she contacted me. So it's Zoli Lay, right? Right.
Yep.
And we're gonna do the intake session, and I'm gonna pretend the recording's not even on here, and we'll do your hypnosis session this afternoon. So that will be part two for anyone watching this. And she's given permission for this to be on YouTube to share with everyone for their
Unedited.
learning. What?
Unedited.
Unedited learning growth. But like I told her before we came on the camera, if there's anything super personal you decide, maybe I don't want this on social media, just tell me. I'll pause the video. I'll pause the recording and that won't go on social media. So, okay. So we're going to do for this intake session, it's a gorgeous Saturday day. I don't know, is it beautiful where you are too?
It is
Yeah.
beautiful today.
And I'm going to get to know everything about you. So this is going to be, and then we're going to put together a list of questions. You have a list of questions that I sent you if you want to choose any from there, but we'll come up also with plenty based on your life and what you're telling me. And then at the end or at some point during here, I'll give you some coaching on what to expect in the hypnosis session when we come back this afternoon. But tell everyone what you found in your dryer vent this morning. Was it this morning?
Yeah, literally before I hopped on. So this morning I was doing a lot of running around and I decided to just do my son's laundry. And I go to, where is it? What did I do with it? Anyway, oh, here it is. So I actually went into to just check the little dryer thing,
The lint?
screen, whatever.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And and it was the only thing in there. There was no lint, zero lint, just this. And all I could do was start laughing. And I actually went to my mom's room and I said, "You're not gonna believe what I found in there with no lint." She's like, "What?" And she just started laughing. She's like, "Of course that would happen to you." So,
And show us your bag, your
oh
Ziploc bag.
right. I have a Ziploc bag full of feathers that I've collected in the last month and a half, I want to say. So I've got some like blue jay feathers, some randomly just sort of I find it right next to my car or everywhere.
That is so
Everywhere.
awesome. Like, I'm totally going to add that as a question to the list right now. So I'm going to be
Yes.
looking this way, and that's where my computer is, where I'm taking notes about your life
Okay.
and typing the questions. So when I'm looking this way, that's what I'm doing. But we definitely have to add that because that's just such an awesome, like, I
It's
don't get
just become a thing
feathers.
in my house now. Like if my parents are in the backyard and gardening because I live at home, um, they'll just come over and just hand it to me. Here, this is for you. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so why does she find feathers all over the place? And in the dryer lint vent, lint catcher, I'll call it,
Yes, the wind
this
catcher.
morning right before this session. Who is sending these to her and what do they mean? How about that?
That's awesome.
Yay, what a great way to start a session. Okay,
I'm so excited.
yes. So, yeah, we scheduled this like a couple months ago. Then I had to reschedule on you because my son had a soccer tournament in Pennsylvania the weekend we were set. And then the day before, the soccer tournament gets canceled. So I didn't end up going to Pennsylvania because apparently one of the kids on the other team got COVID or something like that. And so they couldn't play.
I
So,
think it worked out anyway because I think I was sick. I
um,
ended up getting sick with an upper respiratory, so I think it worked out perfectly.
it's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So start telling me about your life. And if it's, some people find it, you can start right now and go backwards if you want, but some people find it easier to like start when they were younger and just kind of give me a brief family update. Spend a little bit more time in detail if there's any relationship that was a little tumultuous or had challenges in it. But like if mom is an angel and she's perfect and wonderful, like my last two clients in the last couple days, I was just like, you're so lucky. But because I didn't have that, but yeah. So if that's the case, let's just give mom honorable mention and say that, and then we'll move on to more challenging issues.
Okay, sounds good.
And so how
Um,
old are you?
I am 34.
34. Okay.
I'll be 35 on Tuesday.
Happy birthday. Okay.
Thank you.
And I know where you live, so you don't have to say that.
Okay.
Okay. And so just start telling me about you, and I'm going to be taking notes.
My God. Okay. So, my both my parents are from Africa. So my mom is South African, and my dad is from Zimbabwe. So, they actually met here because they were both kind of like in school or whatever, and I had me. So I want to say it was about a year or two after I was born.
Okay.
I think my parents like wanted to be like go back home. So we made the move to Zimbabwe where my dad is from, only because of my mom at the time, because back in those days in the 80s and prior to, there was apartheid, and I believe at one point she was exiled
Okay.
for a little bit. So sorry, I'm whispering. When they leave, I'll talk a little louder.
Because they're upstairs, you said.
Because they're
Okay.
upstairs.
Okay.
So yeah, so we moved to Zimbabwe, and my brothers were born there. So I have
Okay.
two brothers. Um, and yeah, we lived there until I was about 8 or 9. My dad ended up getting a job working for the UN, so he's an engineer. So that's how we ended up coming back here. So yeah, so I mean, life growing up over there was, from what I recall, like really awesome. Um, I think that there are parts of my childhood that I don't remember.
Okay.
Um, what I do remember is all like good stuff, like childhood friends and going to school, riding bikes with her to school. I remember what the house looks like. I mean, my parents still have the house. So I have those sort of like core memories of being there with them and like some family members and stuff. But to say that I remember like other things would be a complete, I don't know. I just don't remember.
Got it.
Um, yeah, I probably can count on one hand like how many things I actually remember.
Oh, wow. Do you want
Yeah.
to ask about that or it doesn't
Yeah.
matter?
I
Okay.
am very curious. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So, right. So we came here and we lived in Brooklyn for a little bit. We actually lived in a one-bedroom apartment. It was my godfather's apartment. So when we first came, like all five of us were like in this one bedroom. So we lived there, and then we moved to another part of Brooklyn. So obviously we all had more space or whatever. So for the most part, I mean, things were fine. And then we moved to New Jersey when I was in, I think I was going into sixth grade. So that was like 97 or something to that effect. Um, but I mean, life was just kind of life. In terms of just like the dynamics, I I'm like the obedient daughter.
Okay.
Um, there's just, there are a lot of spoken and unspoken expectations. Um, and so, like, and it was always one of those things where, and I know this now because I've done a lot of work on myself in the last few years, but it's always been like I, I generally just don't want to rock the boat.
Okay.
So if I sense that there's like stuff, I can like walk into a room and know exactly what's going on without anybody having to say what's going on.
Okay.
Um, and so I just adjust my behavior accordingly. And so that's kind of just been how it was, which probably explains like why I was the obedient one and always did the right thing and all of that. But yeah, so I mean, I was more afraid of my mom, I would say, growing up. than I was my dad. My dad was like the softie. And from what I was told, my dad used to do my hair. I don't get that. I don't know about that. From what I remember. But like he was definitely like the more involved from when I was little. But my mom also traveled quite a bit in my earlier years.
For work?
So she did some background singing work, I guess, in the beginning. So I don't necessarily remember her being like around a lot, but I also don't remember a lot of my childhood. So I,
Okay.
you
Okay.
know, yeah. So like I don't know, like that. I don't. I want to say like there wasn't necessary. I didn't feel like a connection.
Okay. Not a close connection with mom
Mm-mm.
growing up.
No,
And what about now?
it's gotten a lot better because I've done the work. But I have had so much resentment. So much resentment.
Do you feel like you might have any left at all?
Resentment?
Yeah.
No.
No? Okay.
I only say that because I'm in recovery. So I have done a lot of work with my sponsor
Okay. Got it.
on that. And like I learned a lot about expectations and boundaries and all of that. So like that has been a complete game changer
Okay.
in how I have set how our relationship has been. Like I just don't set expectations anymore. But I do set very clear boundaries. And a lot of that had to take place, especially now that I'm home and I have a 4-year-old. If
Got it.
that makes any sense.
Yeah. 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 So without we'll talk about your son
Yes.
a little bit later, and we'll talk about the having a sponsor for AA, you said.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but just talking about just the relationship with mom. So now, how do you handle the relationship with mom? Like what are some like typical, I mean, do you have to walk on eggshells around mom? Do you speak your piece or do you like, how does
I
the relationship?
speak my piece, but it takes me a really long time to do that because I have to sort of process what I'm going to say. So there is still that sort of like, you know, that reserved part of me that sort of comes out from time to time. But then I literally will have conversations with myself and I'm like, okay, but whatever is going on here is like, you can go and have a conversation with her. It is fine. If she's not going to receive it, it is what it is.
Right.
But like, you can't afford to have a resentment, girl. Like, that's how it is. So,
Right.
but it helps tremendously. Um, because I'm like trying to learn how to be more comfortable in my own skin.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out like who is me, who is me. Um, and
Like, it sounds like you chose a really great path. I mean, without jumping ahead too far with the AA and going through all this work, it sounds like you had a great
like
path to get where you are, right?
yes,
Right.
yes,
Wow. Yeah. Because it sounds like you're just in a really great place as far as that kind of stuff is. Um, so any questions about your relationship with mom or if there's any trapped emotions anywhere that you're just not even aware of, or I'm just throwing ideas out. You don't have to. I'm just asking.
I am
Or
very. I'm more curious about like why did I pick her?
okay, that's a good one. That's on my list. So of questions for people that typically ask those types of questions. Okay, so why did she choose the mom she did? What
Mhm.
lessons or experiences did she want to have in that regard? How about that?
Yeah,
Is that good? So, what are some challenges? So, see, we're spending more time on mom now.
yeah.
So that I can understand when you're under hypnosis, really the relationship. Like, what would you say are some of the challenges with mom that you say you have to have this conversation beforehand with yourself and be like, girl, you don't want to have any resentment, go talk to her, right? So, and
Yeah.
self-talk is amazing. So, I hear all the time from people's higher selves that two ways that we can change our lives that are really easy is self-talk. Obviously, we want it to be high energy, high frequency, high vibration, positive self-talk, because, those are things and we're putting that in the world and the environment and the universe, and affirmations, right? So those are two really great things, but it sounds to me like you might be like having a conversation with your higher self while you're doing all this, or your guides, right?
All the time,
Right.
all the time.
Right. So like give me an example or two of like what kind of, like, I don't know, I guess I don't know if it's friction or whatever you want to say, like where you and your mom aren't exactly seeing eye to eye, and you live with her, so it probably happens, on more regular basis than it would if you didn't live with her.
So I think for me, like the biggest one was also always the sort of like maternal, nurturing, encouraging type of a thing. Like I never felt like I got that. Basically, I just didn't get the level of nurturing that I needed. Um, she is because she's very rigid, very, very rigid. And so things have to be sort of done a certain way. And she's a very, even though I mean, I wouldn't say this to her face, but she's a very anxious person.
Okay.
But her way of releasing that anxiety is through controlling things. So things have to be just so. And like sometimes, I mean, now as an adult, I'm just like, but that doesn't make any sense though. And it's like little things. So, okay, so upstairs, and I'll give you just a basic example.
Okay.
I could have like washed all the dishes and put them away or whatever. And if she comes down, she's like, why is the sink wet?
Oh, wow.
And she's like, you gotta wipe the sink. It's gotta look tidy. It's gotta look tidy. I'm like, okay, I'll get there. But and at that moment I was just doing it just because. Like I'm not gonna be oppositional. It's just so petty. And so just things have to be just so. Otherwise it kind of puts her in this like tailspin and then she shuts down. But shutting down for her is very different. So like I'm I'm really good at reading her. One of the things that I will say has really helped has been like if I know that she is in a space, I'll just look at her and say, "You all right? You okay? You want to talk?" She's like, "No, I'm okay." You sure? But it's like the elephant in the room. Like I'm just like making it known that like I feel that something is going on. Whereas before growing up, it was almost like we all knew. And then we would just try to do everything right or try to like make her feel better indirectly by cleaning or doing this or doing that. So it was just, yeah, that's how we just dealt with it.
So growing up, before you started using your voice, it was a lot of like almost kind of like walking on eggshells, would you say?
Yeah, yeah, I would say so.
Okay. Okay, that's awesome that you're able to like almost call her out on it now and be like, "You all right? You okay?"
Oh yeah. You all right? Want to talk? She'll be sometimes she'll look at me, she's like, go away. I'm like, just know that I love you. And she's like, ah.
You got any trapped emotions there you want to process, Mom?
And you know what? And the thing is, and a lot of my relationship with her is just based on me just being very aware of her life story. And so I just try to be like very accommodating with that. I have in the past. But I'm like, I can't, we all have to work on that. I mean, if that's what you're here to do, is to
Right.
heal that, but I
Right.
had to learn that I am like not responsible for that. It is
Right.
not my responsibility. But that took a lot because that's like decades of undoing. So,
So as far as you said, you never felt like you got the nurturing love and support from your mom. Was that where the resentment stemmed from?
yes.
And so you feel like you've healed that, you said.
I mean, there are times that I would still like it from her. I mean, obviously I can give it to myself, but
Right.
sometimes it's just nice.
Right. Yeah. And so she's still not capable of it to
I
this day.
know she's not.
Okay.
I think
Okay,
she
good.
tries. I think she really does try. And it's very obvious with my son. I mean, when we get there, but it's like very it's there. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Any more questions about mom or just that? But if based on the answers, I may ask follow-up questions and now I know the background and some examples. So that was perfect.
Yay.
Anything else about mom or you want to talk a little bit about dad?
Um, we can move on.
Okay. Okay.
Move on to
Okay.
that.
Tell me about dad. You said he's like really calm and
Yes, for like when I was younger, he was, but he's always been like he tries really hard to be the enforcer, but we always knew like he would at some point bend a little. Um, but it was still one of those things where you knew he was still, an authority figure, and so I mean, you weren't gonna just try to, treat him like a doormat or anything. So, my dad's definitely held his own for sure. But he was, or he is, what am I saying? I mean, our relationship is fine. I would say in the last like 6 years, we've had a very interesting relationship. Um, but as I've gotten older, there's been more so of a disconnect emotionally. Um, between the two of us.
why do you think that is?
I don't I I don't know. That's a very like loaded question because I think there's so many layers to this.
Okay.
Um, there's so many layers.
Okay. And is it going to come out as we talk about everything? Is it
Yeah.
the things that have happened in your life?
Yeah, like so much has happened in my life.
Okay, okay. And you think because of the things that have happened in your life, he's just kind of stepped back a little bit emotionally or kind of guarded
And I
himself
think
a little bit
yeah, I
emotionally?
think that and like also things that has just happened to us as a family unit
Okay.
has totally sort of shifted a lot of our like the relationships we have with each other. Um, prior to like a few years ago, I thought that we all had a really positive relationship. But looking back, it was the reason that we all sort of came together was because we were all just living in chaos. And so because we all lived in chaos, we always had something to talk about. Like there was always a common denominator. And then when things just sort of, settled down is when things just sort of shifted. Because I think at least I can speak for myself that I think my sense of identity changed. And I can only assume that that was the story for everybody else. Wow, this is juicy. As
Yeah, you have the whole picture in your mind. We're just getting it.
I'm
We're
like, oh
breaking it
my, oh my. And it's
down.
nice
Okay.
because like these are things that I think in my head or I journal about, and but it's all like fragmented. So a storyline is just very okay. Go ahead, Tracy.
Okay. So, do you have any questions about dad?
No. No, not really.
Nope.
Not
Okay.
yet.
Okay, we're good. And yeah, they can come up later if you want them to. Okay, so you had your growing up years, and we're not going to skip ahead too much. So, high school, college, did you do any of that, or what happened? Did you leave and now you're back? And so, just pick up from being younger and your relationship with your. Oh, I'm sorry. You think you said you had a couple brothers?
Yes.
Okay, so let's pause and tell me about your brothers.
Okay, so right, there are two of them. So
Younger.
the second born,
Okay.
um, he actually passed away back in 2015,
How old was he?
25 or 26.
Okay, and what happened?
He committed suicide. He hung himself in the house,
I'm
in
so
his
sorry.
room. And so I was the one who found him.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
So like that was, like I said, that was the common denominator with all the chaos and stuff. And so like once that sort of ended, then it was just like, who are you guys? But, he had a tumultuous life to say the least. He was always like he was like the athletic one, the one who like never really had to pick up a book, but like still did really well on like tests and stuff. Um, so was there, I don't know, I guess our relationship was okay. I mean, it's just like siblings. I mean, we all fought.
Okay.
Um, but I mean, the relationship totally changed when he got older. So like I want to say when he went away to college, because then that's like drinking. He was drinking in high school, but when he went away to school, that's really kind of like when it sort of reared its ugly head. And he was on a partial scholarship for soccer, and like he lost that scholarship, and so he had to move back home. So he had cycles of just substance use. Um, so in that situation, my role became, well, you're the one who deals with mental health. Like, where all these therapists are. So, or, rehabs or whatever, like you do it. So that ended up being sort of like my job. And I was just like trying to be the buffer between everyone. Um, like towards the end of his life, like he was in a relationship with this girl who was just, it was just like very toxic. I mean, like super toxic. And like
So
by
was
the
he
end,
abusive to her, or he would get drunk and just, just be crazy with her, or why was it toxic, or was she toxic?
I think that she was toxic and then just sort of fueled his like addiction because she definitely enabled him. I mean, towards the end, he wasn't working anymore. And like he had switched over. So, I mean, he was an experimenter. But like towards the end, he was like shooting up heroin. Like, and at one point, he moved back home. And like, I remember once, I think I went upstairs. His girlfriend was screaming because at some point she also moved in here.
Oh no.
We were like a damn boarding house. That's the other thing. Anyway, so yeah, so like she's like, "Oh my God." So I'm like running upstairs. I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "He's doing it again." And I'm like, and he's like on the toilet, like, and my dad's like coming out and he's like taking pictures. He needs to see this when I'm like, this is not helpful. Like, not helpful. You guys need to leave. So I, towards the end, became the protector
Oh,
because
okay.
I felt like nobody really understood him. And I felt like, for the most part, like they weren't understanding that this is not just something you can turn on and off. I didn't know anything about addiction at that point. I mean, I wasn't, my party didn't start until after he died, and it didn't like go south until like way later. So like I knew that he had a lot of stuff going on, but for me, I kept telling him, you just need to let me know. Like just communicate with me. Like I want to help you. And but I went back and forth between like being that his sister, right? And then being this like protector, caregiver, nurturer. And I think a lot of that resentment really sort of like just was molded towards my mom and stuff because she works nights. So she would like come home the next day. There might have been a whole fight going on in the house, and like I mean, I can't blame her for that. You have to work, but it was just sort of like the reaction and the her response to him and like all of that. So
So she had no like compassion or anything for him. Is that what you're saying?
I think that she had her own definition of compassion. Honestly, I just think that she gave what she could. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but she could only do so much because of like just her emotional intelligence.
Okay.
Like, I don't, um, and because she also works in mental health, so like she works at an inpatient hospital, and she deals with like people coming in obviously for the mental health, but some come in with substance use as well. So I think that it's hard to just like turn that off, I think, even though that is your son. I mean, there are a lot of hard decisions I'm sure she's had to make, but I was there, so then she would just sort of take a back seat with a
Okay.
lot of that. Um, but I just because I don't think she could have like emotionally handled that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And okay, so continue with brother.
So I don't know what you want me to say
Oh,
besides
so right before he committed suicide,
yes.
he was shooting up heroin,
Hmm.
drinking with this
Yeah.
toxic girl. She was living there still, or no?
She was living there. She was living there. I believe it was like the night before he died. I think they had gotten into like some kind of disagreement, and I don't know, it's hearsay. But I think he said something like, I'm gonna kill myself, and she was like, yeah, you should do it. I wish you would, or some shit like that. I mean, obviously, it was already planted in his head. I don't blame her for that,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Nobody can make anyone kill themselves, right?
no, 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 not
Wow.
at
So
all.
did you have any inkling at all that he would be capable of doing something like that, or no?
Hell no, definitely not. But it's interesting because 4 months prior, because he died on Good Friday in 2015. So, like, few months prior, my friend calls me, and she's like the only one that I like trust with everything. She called me from Puerto Rico.
Okay.
She was visiting her mom, and she's like, "Dude, I had a dream about your brother last night." And I said, "Okay." Um, and she's like, So she said that she saw him at our front door. And she's like, I don't know, but the numbers, like, it wasn't your house, but it was 4 and 3, but 4 and 3 is 7. And the number of my house is 7. And she just kept saying, like, he kept looking at the door and, like, was trying to decide whether or not he should go in or not go in. And she was trying to talk to him. They were having a conversation. And then she's like, before I saw what he did, I woke up. And then, like, 4 months after that,
Oh,
crazy, right?
right. Wow. Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So how did you handle the whole situation? I mean, what did you do? Is that when you started drinking or that came later?
The drinking did sort of escalate around that time.
Okay.
And only because I've always been very sensitive to energy. And so for the most part, it like I wasn't sleeping, so that's one. When I did sleep, like weird shit was happening, and I was freaked out. I was like super scared. Like at one point, I remember laying in bed and I'm like trying to sleep and close my eyes. And you just like feel a presence in the room. And I remember going like this and looking at the edge of my bed, and I saw his face. And like, but he was wearing like the same clothes that he wore when he died. So I was like, go away, go away, go away, go away. He's like, Zoe, Zoe. I'm like, go away. So like those things were happening. I would come home from work and like I'd see somebody in his room waving. So like these are things that, listen, I'm already going through enough. I don't need anything additional adding to my already fragile state.
Okay.
So that's when sort of like the drinking really started happening because I got to a point where I just needed to sleep, and it was like the only thing I knew would help because, you know, I would black out essentially. I would just like pass out. I wouldn't dream. I'd have no dreams at that point. I'm just out. So I was doing that, and then I was like, at one point, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't like drink so much. So I switched to like Unisom and, you know, Z-Quil to help me sleep. And then my mom saw the Z-Quil, excuse me, and she's like, no, you know, you shouldn't take these because you can get addicted. And she was so fearful because, you know, like when my brother's autopsy came back, it was like he had Xanax in his system and alcohol, and it was just like a bunch of stuff in his system. And so, you know, all of the idea of medication terrified them, um, because he was receiving Xanax at some point early on. He was, you know, seeing a psychiatrist and like he was selling it. So that like put a bad taste in their mouth. So I'm like here taking an OTC and they're like, no, you cannot. So I just stopped. So I was like, all right, well, drinking is better, I guess. So that's what I did for a while. And to be honest, the only reason that I probably wouldn't have kept going is because I got pregnant.
Oh, okay.
I found out I was pregnant in 2016, and I had my son in 2017.
Okay. Pregnant in 2016 and had son in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's take a break from there then and
Yeah.
talk about your son's father.
What a
And you can
gem.
just use his initial of his first name, or you can just say his dad.
We'll just say his dad.
Okay.
I guess it doesn't matter. We'll use Jay.
Okay. All right. So tell me about Jay.
So Jay, I met. You want me to start like from the beginning or?
Whatever's relevant.
All right. So, you know, it was like a year after, and I was like, you know, I really just like need to get out of myself because I just was stuck in this rut. And I don't really have like a dating history or anything. I've always just been very awkward when it comes to the opposite sex. And I think a lot of that had to do with like me feeling very rejected in college when I would like have interest in men. And um the feelings would not be reciprocated.
Okay.
um but I had, prior to that, I had no like, you know, I wasn't dating, I was on to have a boyfriend, so I knew nothing. So in college I definitely like built this wall of like, you know, I'm not gonna put my feelings out there, you know, and I just became like, I'll just sleep with you instead of um you potentially hurting me. So fast forward to him. Um, he was like the first guy that I felt like, my God, he's so nice. He's like super nice. And, you know, just everything about him I thought was like awesome. And prior to that, I had a relationship and he was just like a nut job.
Okay.
But with him, he was just like a breath of fresh air. And yeah, like we went out a few times, like he'd come to my house a few times and we'd hung out, and you know, I thought he was into me. I really did. And but I noticed that, you know, I was doing a lot of the reaching out. Um but I'm like, I'm interested, so I'm not going to, you know, try to hide that. And he usually reciprocated. I mean, I don't know. God, this sounds bad. So
No judgment in any of this. Don't worry.
I know, but like I'm talking out loud. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, so then, you know, I was like starting to feel some type of way. And so I said to him, I'm like, he came over to my house, okay, the night that, my son was conceived. So we're here like watching a movie after, and whatever. And then he's getting ready to leave. And he's like, "Oh, I have to talk to you about something." I'm like, "Okay." And he says, "I really think that we should just, like, I would love to, you're so cool. Like, I just want to kind of hang with you. We can be friends, but I'm not really looking for a relationship right now." I was pissed. I was pissed because I felt like it was the first time that I actually ever been like vulnerable, only for that to get slapped. I was so fucking mad. And I was like, okay, um, okay. And so he left. I was stewing in that. And then at some point I said to him, I'm like, I don't want to have friends with benefits. Like, I want to be in a relationship, and like, good luck with your life, And that was it. At least that's what I thought. And then I was pregnant.
So you guys had sex that night.
That night we had.
And then he told you afterwards?
Yes, Tracy. That's some grimy shit.
That is grimy. Wow.
Yeah. So
Like, thanks, babe, but by the way.
yeah, you didn't even give me the option of saying, "You know what? One for the road," or "You need to go." You didn't give me that
Right.
option. So I was like
Yeah, that was
hella
that was
mad.
that was a scammer.
Yeah.
Okay. Um
Yeah. I'll let you type.
Okay, so then you find out how long afterwards that you're pregnant.
Like a few weeks. I found out I was pregnant in like July.
And you told him, and he was really excited and couldn't believe it.
Of course. How did you know?
He was like, "Oh my God, this is what I've always wanted."
So this is how the conversation went. Okay, so
Okay.
like, let me give you a baby backstory. So
Okay.
my two best friends from college and we went to Toronto. I found out I was pregnant right before I went to Toronto, but I wasn't sure what I was gonna do. I was like, I can't have a fucking baby. Like, mind you, I'm like 29 years old,
Okay.
and I'm like, I can't have a fucking baby. I can't. Um, and mind you, so in college, I had a schmortion
Okay.
in college. So fast forward to like this point, it was just like, do I want to go through the emotions that I went through when I was 18? No.
Got
I
it.
have suffered enough, kind of a thing. So I was kind of like back and forth, but something in me was like, no. And so, like, no, we're keeping this baby type thing. So I told him in Canada, I was like, we need to talk. And he's like, well, what are you gonna do? And I said, I lied. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I knew I was keeping that baby.
Right.
So he's like, honestly, if it was, obviously it's your choice, but I would prefer that you didn't, and I would prefer that you had an abortion. It's like, but take your time and think about it. I know what that meant. But anyway, so eventually I told him that I came back from Canada, I got it confirmed. Like, everything was kind of like, and I was like, yep, I am keeping this baby. So I felt very tortured for 9 months. I allowed him to do that actually
Oh, okay. So
for
what
my
did he do
entire.
for torturing? Try to continue to talk you into it?
So I think he at that point he had made peace with the fact that I was keeping the kid. Like, he wasn't gonna try to convince me otherwise. The torture part comes in when he was just like, I'm not sure if I want to be involved. So one week he'd be like, yeah, I'm into it. I'm totally into it. Another week, I don't know. But I would like, can you imagine? You're carrying another human being and your ass is going to I would meet him at Starbucks like every 2 weeks. to have conversations with him about. And at one point, I said to him, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to continue to come and meet with you. You either want to be involved or you don't. Because in between that, it was like, well, you know, my brother's really sick. I might have to move to Seattle. I don't want to be like the type of dad that's just a video chat dad. I want to be involved. I was like, okay. And then the following would be like, okay, what if I would be involved, but you would sign like a clause saying that you would never come and look for me for child support. I was like, like whatever you want to do. I said, I don't need your money. Like, I don't need your money. I said, if you don't want to be involved, I'm like, he's going to have some really positive male influences in his life that I am not concerned about, so you can make that choice on whether or not you want to be involved, but I'm not doing this anymore. So he finally told his parents.
Mm.
He told his parents in like January, and I was due in March.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
What did they say?
Oh, that was a very interesting meet. So I got invited over for dinner, and I go over there, and it's like his mom, his dad, his sister, his brother, and then him, and then there's me. They'd never seen my face before, and he's white. He's a Jewish guy. He's Jewish, so like I walk in, it's like Hershey Kiss walking in the door, We sit down and we're like, and I'm like so pregnant.
Oh no.
All right. And like then he said, so then I sit down and I'm like eating the food. And it's just like awkward. They're asking me about what I do, yada yada. And then his mom starts asking me questions about like she's like, I'm really sorry, I'm just asking you all these questions. She's just like, but I didn't even hear about you until recently. That was a slap in the face. You could have kept that to yourself.
Yeah.
But thanks.
Right.
I'm like, well, here I am. Like, I don't know what else to tell you.
Right.
So then there was a lot of question about paternity. He's like, is the kid even mine? I'm like, dude, like, I'm not begging you for anything. So like that was really sort of the start of it. And my friends want to have a baby shower, whatever. And he's like, oh, I'm going to invite my friends to the baby shower. First of all, aren't you questioning the paternity? Like, why would you want to invite your friend if this kid is probably not yours?
Right.
So I go ahead and I have my son Phineas. So I ended up having a C-section with him because I got induced. Everybody, including his whole family, was in the hospital. It was just like nobody had any boundaries, and like I just didn't have the energy to like just kick everybody out.
Yeah.
So I had him, and I'll never forget it. It was maybe like 2 days after I had him, and he came into the room. I'm like laying down, and he like picks him up, and I'm like, okay. He goes to the corner of the room, Tracy, and he fucking swabs my kid. Doesn't even tell me he's doing it, and he swabs my kid. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh no, I'm not doing anything. Again, don't have the energy, don't want to start anything. I am a non-confrontational person. Like, I'm not doing that.
But you knew he was doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because then eventually he sent me an email. Oh, he is 99.9. Yeah, I know, bro. I know he's your kid. Like, um, so that's kind of like what our relationship was. One day he left me in the hospital because he didn't agree with the name that I picked. I said, you didn't decide to be around until, whatever. And he's like, well, I don't want anybody making fun of my kid's name. I said, well, my name is Olile. Nobody made fun of my name. You have to teach your child to be proud of who they are. And he left the hospital for a night and then came back. My friend had to come over, and the one who had the dream about my brother, and she helped me with the baby in the hospital. And then he came around and he's like, oh, I guess Phineas is a really good name. Yeah, bitch, it is. I chose that name for a reason.
Right.
I'm like, I'm sorry to all the Logans out there, but
Right.
Zalile is not going to have a Logan. I'm sorry. So Phineas means wise one. And like, it was just so fitting. Like, I've always felt that. It's literally who he is. Little old man. Um,
So, how involved has he been, if at all, since your son's birth?
he's been involved.
Oh, wow.
Turns out, and I knew this already, he lied about his brother possibly having cancer. That was a
Oh,
whole lie to just get me to like, But I think that in the beginning, he didn't want to be involved, but because it is his parents' first grandkid ever, I think that for them, there is an expectation that he is going to be a part of this kid's life. And I think that with Finn getting older, I think that the relationship is a little bit more natural. Like he's grown to like our kid. Like there's actually some kind of an emotional attachment there. Um, yeah. So I mean, he takes him every other weekend. I mean, the way that I treated it at some point, I'm like, listen, if we eventually go to court for like child visitation, like this is what it's gonna look like. So this is what we're gonna follow. So it's been really, really nice because I've been able to do that, which still kind of allows me to have a break. But I didn't get that in the beginning. Like I really had to like fight for that to get time. But you have a baby and you're dealing with somebody that you've hated for so long because of the way you were treated. Now they have to be under the same roof as you, and you have to take care of a living being. And then on top of that, there are these ones upstairs, and it's like everybody's telling you how to like take care, like raise your kid, and you can't do it like this. You got to do it like that. I was literally about to lose my mind. Lose my mind. So the drinking kind of like snuck in, but it was like 6 months after I had him. I think what happened was I tucked away all the grief. Then I had this situation with this guy, and then I had to be responsible for a whole person, and like I had to like it. Like I have to like you and love you, and I didn't know how to do any of that, like anything. Emotions were not a part of my story until I had my son. Feelings, recognizing them.
So about 6 months after he was born was when the drinking kicked in high gear, you said.
That's right.
Okay. Okay. And so how long did that go on for, and what kind
not
of
that not that long. So that was like, yeah, like 2017, and it started off very like minor. It was just a glass of wine here, a glass of wine there. And it was just a way for me to like relax and have me time. So my job was like so chaotic and crisis driven, and I was coming home to like people that just I felt like didn't understand me and weren't trying to figure me out. And when I said something about it, it was like usually very brushed off. And then my kid was sick all the time. He had like chronic ear infections and asthma. And I mean, I spent more time at the doctor's office um, with him. And I, was like just very resentful, towards his dad about that. But, right. So I would wait until he went to bed. I would wait until I knew he was okay. And then that's when I would start. And like, as life just kept like piling stuff on me, I was over it.
you're just looking
I
for
was
a way
over
to
it.
escape or cope,
I
right?
just needed a way out. Yeah, I needed a way to cope. Um, and honestly, it was just like looking back now, I had like all these feelings that I didn't understand and I didn't want to feel them because I was afraid of what that would look like. I was deathly afraid of what that would look like.
What about any feelings of, I'm just trying to, and you tell me if you think this is not applicable to you. So, do you feel like you might have any trapped emotions of rejection as a result of the dad?
Yes.
Okay.
And
We
I
should
think
ask that,
probably
right?
prior to that too. Probably from
Okay.
childhood as well.
Okay. Okay. So, how about if we ask, does she have any trapped emotions of rejection? And if so, are you able to pull that by the root? And would it benefit her instead to have you download Creator's definition of, what's the opposite of rejection? Totally acceptance, right?
Acceptance. Yeah. I
Of
was like, does that seem right?
of being totally accepted and loved, right?
Yeah.
Sound good? Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Mind
a
you, we
question.
tried twice to
What?
we tried twice to like get back together. I mean, not because I wanted to.
Okay.
And that was unsuccessful.
For the baby's sake, right?
For the baby's sake.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
So how did the drinking get like to a point where you're just like, gosh, this is out of control. I gotta stop. Like what was going on?
I didn't say that. I thought I
Oh,
was fine.
oh, okay.
I
So
thought
who
I was
said it?
fine. A lot of people, I mean, I think things were planted. Like my mom would say, I think you're drinking a little bit too much. Or my dad would say, don't take your booze upstairs, like bring it down here. And I'd be like, yeah, yeah, okay. And it just became like a situation. Like literally, I woke up one day and I was like, it'd be really nice if I could just like have a drink before work. And that's how I started drinking in the morning. So I would like drop him off really early and like get to the liquor store at like 9 a.m. And I wouldn't get anything like super hard, super hard. And then I'd go home and like watch TV and like then I'd get in the shower. But it became um more of a necessity towards the end of my drinking where like I could not function unless I did drink because I was like shaking and when for a while I thought that was anxiety. And mind you, like prior to this getting bad, I I had to take I think I took like short-term disability because it was like one day I legit woke up and I was like, I don't want to do any of this anymore. Like I didn't want to shower. I didn't want to just like take care of myself. I would just like sleep all the time. I'd call out of work and I never call out of work. And there was a day that my executive director said, I think you need to take some time. I think you need to just like pause. And so I was doing like a partial program for like depression and anxiety. But like at that point when I was in that program, that's really like the drink it just gave me more time to drink um after that program. And yeah, so towards the end I was drinking around the clock. I was like barely making it to work or I'd be sent home. Um I was like missing pickup time for my son because I'd be like asleep at the park in my car and I'd wake up and it was like 7 o'clock and pickup is at 6:30, and I'd have like 5 or 6 missed calls from my dad, like, where are you? And I'd have to say, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like my meeting went over, like so I was just trying to I thought I was doing a good job, honestly, because I was like, well, I'm going to work. Like I'm not like my uncle, my mom's brother. Like he just never worked. Like he was an alcoholic, but he was not a functioning alcoholic. I had a job, a kid, a 401k, savings, a vehicle. Like, so to me, it was more so of like, well, I've had a really shitty life for the last however many years. Like, people need to leave me alone because you would do the same thing if you were me. Um, and so like my bottom came when I got arrested for a DUI. I got pulled over. My two best friends were coming over, my college best friends, and they're gonna hang out for the weekend here. And I went out to go buy stuff. And yeah, I was pulled over. I was like not that far from home, and I was arrested. My blood alcohol level was like through the roof. Like, yeah. And my friends still came. I mean, I just wasn't there. I can only laugh about it now.
Isn't that interesting how you put that cop in that place to help you?
Yes.
Nothing's by accident, right?
Nothing is ever by accident.
Yeah.
Not at all. And I remember because I ended up going to rehab. Um, so like the DUI happened on whatever day in May in April, towards the end of April, and a week later, I was like in rehab, and not by choice. At that point, my kid wasn't even living with me anymore. He went to go live with his dad
Oh.
because now I'm like shaking so much. And he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. My anxiety's just like so bad and like trying to figure out my medication." Meanwhile, I'm like taking my meds and like drinking at the same time, not consistently taking my medication. My dad told me that I wasn't allowed to drive the car anymore. So our relationship also changed in that time too because he was starting to assume like this role. So I was basically just re-traumatizing him with the experience of my brother. Um, and he saw it firsthand. I mean, he would like drive me to work because he did not want me to drive myself. Finn was living with his dad, and so I would go there and spend the night, and then in the morning drop him off at daycare, and then come home, and then I would go to work. So that was a Wednesday. That was the routine, and I came home to a whole bunch of people in my house. My mom was home, my dad was home, my best friend, the one who had the dream, was here. She like coordinated the whole thing, I guess, with my parents. No
An
clue.
intervention.
Yeah, so I had an intervention, and I went to rehab that day. That was like May of 2019. Went to rehab, lost my job, got fired from my job. And I was there for 10 years. Um, they deemed it like a no call, no show. But because I was there for so long and I was actually a decent employee, um, they like let me keep my health insurance for however long. So like I didn't have to worry about payment with the rehab or anything like that. But honestly, like getting fired was the best thing that had ever happened to me. The best. Because really, that's when I actually had the time to like sit with the things that I didn't know I had, and somehow try to find a way to resolve that. Um, so I was going to like IOP and doing therapy, and I started going to AA meetings and stuff. Um, and then I want to say like when I was 6 months sober is when I met my sponsor, and it's been like that ever since. Um, I did eventually get Finn back in November and
In November 2020.
2019.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So luckily I got to have him that same year. But Jason, Jason, we already said it, um, was definitely like very manipulative around that time. Very manipulative. I'm talking like he you could have like visitors at rehab, right? Why he would come to see me, I don't know. But he came with his dad, barely spoke to me when I was there. It was just like very uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And then I came home and I understood, like, you don't want me to drive our kid. Like, I get that. You know, I don't have the best track record right now. So he's like, well, these are the rules and the expectations. And it was just like I was so riddled with anxiety because I just wanted things to be okay. And I had this fear that he was going to try to keep my kid. And I was only allowed to see him on like certain days, and I could come over and do night routine. I couldn't have him for weekends. I mean, thank God, like it didn't go to court. Thank God, like Child Protective Services was never involved. Like for that, I am very grateful. But it was just really, really hard to deal with him because it was almost like he got like very power hungry and that he had,
That's what I was gonna say. It sounded like that. Yeah.
yes.
Like I'm
Um,
gonna lord this over you because now I have the upper hand and you don't. And
right.
maybe it was kind of a way for him to feel like, aha, you had all this power and control over me being pregnant and not terminating it, and now look who has the power now, type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was just, but never once did I like, because I didn't even feel safe enough to make my own decisions at that point. Like, I just didn't trust myself. Um, and luckily he had agreed to come to therapy at my IOP with my therapist, to work towards like bringing, you know, getting my kid to come back home and sort of like picking his brain as to like where he was at. And like one of the therapy sessions, he said that he didn't think that he would enjoy having Finn around as much as he did. And so for that reason, he wanted to, was really considering getting custody of him, like full custody or whatever. Like, okay, you didn't think you would like spending time with your own kid. Nice. And that right there, I was like, you're selfish, bro. But that's where he was at. So like he's very immature. And I realized, and it took me a really long time to realize, and this was through that therapist I had. She's like, he 100% is verbally abusive. Like emotionally abusive, not verbally, emotionally abusive. And you just like, well, I mean, I didn't realize that's what it was. I really didn't. And even after Finn came home, you know, I could have easily turned around and been a complete D bag about the whole situation. But like, what purpose would that serve? You know, I was just like trying to rebuild my life,
Right.
you
Right.
know, and try to like untraumatize my kid because he also, you know, the last image he had of me was dropping him off at daycare, and then like he comes, now you don't see me for 30 days. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's so crazy.
he might have felt like some abandonment or something, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He
Do you
needs
want
a
to ask?
hypnosis session.
Well, do you want to ask if he has anything like that and if your higher self can work with his higher self and pull that if he does?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
let's
Because I
do.
think there's still traces of it. When he first came home, or like when he would be here, um, I couldn't do anything by myself. Like he needed to see me. Um, and then it got better, especially with lockdown. Because we were together
Right.
all the time. And you know, I go to my one meeting at night on Tuesdays, and Tuesdays is the day that he's with his dad just for dinner and then comes back. And that was the first time that all of that was happening in that one day. And I came home from the meeting and he was fine. And I'm like, all right, it's time to take a bath. I'm like, I know it's not about the bath. It is not about the bath. He goes, well, I just thought that, you know, you weren't going to come back. So it does kind of rear its ugly head. And I have to do a lot of like reassuring, a lot of prepping. But I also just, I don't know. It's like a work in progress. But I
Yeah.
would love him to not have that.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I could tell him every aspect of the day and it really doesn't matter. I think that he just like think he needs the reassurance, but I also have to, and he's so insightful. He's so like verbal and I'm all about you need to express. I need to see all of that. As crazy as you are, like I'll take it and we'll talk about it. But he's like willing to do that, which is so refreshing.
Yeah.
Um yeah.
It's awesome because giving him a safe space to express himself and know that he's not going to be criticized or condemned or judged or rejected for that is like a beautiful, amazing gift that you're giving him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I remember because I remember one time, I remember when I was small and I got really excited about something. And my mom just looked at me and she was like, I don't know why you're getting excited. Don't get too excited. And it was like, so probably why I don't like, I look forward to things, but I just like, I'm not like hyped up about it type of a thing. But with him, I mean, Finn is just naturally, sometimes I think he just has a natural resting bitch face, but he is like, yeah, he's just like really cool. He's cool. I mean, he definitely helps me kind of like work on my own emotions in a sense, and recognize that I do have them. I think it's very interesting that because he is so full of expression and full of emotion, what that does to my peeps. My mom can't handle it most days.
Oh, really?
She cannot handle it. She cannot handle it. I mean, unless, it's something that doesn't affect her, it's fine. But like I've noticed, like if he does something, which is totally age appropriate, but like it'll piss her off and she'll just like snub him. It's like, and I'll look at her and I'm like, really, mom? He's 4. And then she'll just look at me like, you saw me.
Right. Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
be calling her out on it too.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's funny.
Wow. So do you think that the way your mom is to him affects him negatively at all or emotionally or on some maybe subconscious level?
Yes.
So how about this? I've done this before. How about if we ask your higher self, um, due to the fact that they live with her mother and she handles emotions differently than they do. Is that a way to say it?
That's good. You're so
Differently than they
strength-based. Look at you.
do. And you know what we mean, higher self.
Exactly. You know what's up.
Are you able to put a bubble of love, light, and um, love, light, and what do we want the bubble, a perma bubble while you're living there? Perma bubble around Finnegan with respect to your mom, but we want the bubble to be made of love, light, and acceptance.
Yeah.
Pure acceptance that is there for him to draw upon when he is not getting it from his environment. Want that?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, let's do that. Because I had a girl the other day, we did that. Her niece is being raised by a severely verbally and emotionally abusive father, which is her brother.
Mm.
severely abusive. And so she wants to help her niece, but feels like her hands are tied in a lot. She tries to be there for her, but we did that, and her higher self did put that bubble around the niece. And then I asked, how is her life going to be different now that she has that bubble that she can, that layer around her that she can draw upon? And her higher self said that it'll actually help her be able to process the healing and emotion better when she gets to that stage in her life, in addition to helping her now, but it'll ease the process of being able to put that in place when she's ready.
Nice.
So yeah, so let's do that. Okay. Um, okay. Wow. This is a good book. Right?
Yes.
You've been through a lot, but yeah. So working with your sponsor and your
Hmm.
life now, if you had to change your life and take out all of that stuff, would you or would you not?
I wouldn't.
Right? Isn't that amazing how we're just
I would
gluttons?
not.
Not gluttons for punishment.
There is no way, there is no way that I would be in the space that I'm in. It would literally have to be like in my next life or the life after that.
Yeah.
Um, is my life a lot of hard work? Like, I feel like my whole life has just been like work, work,
Okay.
work, 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 work. Like, I'm always just doing stuff. Um, and I just feel like I'm always having to like work super hard all the time. And it would be nice to just not. Um, but I am learning how to balance that. It's not easy. I also don't ask for help because I don't want to be told no.
Oh, is that a rejection thing or
Yes, that's a rejection thing because
um
then I'll be mad.
oh, okay.
Because that's happened before where it's like, oh yeah, I'll do this, I'll do that. And then it doesn't get done. Then I end up doing it. Like I already mentally removed it from my to do list. And then here you go, messing up the plan in my head,
Yeah.
so it definitely prevents me from asking for help.
And who
So I,
did you ask for help from? Do you mean like your parents or someone
like anyone,
and
like
against
anyone.
okay.
Oh, him, I don't ask for help. I mean,
Okay.
now I do. Now I do. I'm learning to. I also just put him on child support, which is like one of the cool boundaries I set. Um, which has 100% improved how our relationship is. Like I'm not as anxious and stressed about certain conversations regarding finances anymore.
So
We'll
before you would
support
just
do
like
it.
ask him for money and stuff and he would just
No,
oh, he didn't support your son at all?
he would show up and like do all this other stuff, but his dad is like an extreme couponer, so like diapers and stuff like that, he would get for Finn, but loads financially, I mean, we split daycare. That we did. Um, when you're talking about clothes and this, and he wouldn't do it. He's like, well, why don't you just ask me? I'm like, because you already know what the expense is. We've had the conversation about how much it's going to cost. You're the dad. You're 99.99% the father. So it's
Right.
like I shouldn't have to. And I told him that. I'm like, I shouldn't have to ask you for money, especially if we're having the conversation about that specific thing. Um, but again, it was just something I was internalized and I was like gained a resentment over. Um, and like when I got sober, it was just like because I wasn't working and we had this like joint account that was for daycare. Well, it was my account, but like I added him on it, but that's where they were taking the money out of. But because I wasn't working or getting unemployment, like there was like a nice chunk of savings in there. Um, and then obviously his direct deposit would go in there. So like at one point he said, "So you're gonna pay me back, right, for that?" Okay, sure, I will pay you back.
Hmm. But now
extended.
you said it took the stress away by just making him pay
Yeah.
child support. Okay.
So now he pays child support. He pays every week. Um, his question about taxes and him being able to claim him, that was decided at mediation. I don't have to have the conversation about, you know, I'm the custodial parent, so I should, whatever. Somebody already made that decision, that determination. So it takes a lot of the junk out of the relationship, a lot of the tension. And now I just don't see him as often, which is like really nice because I'm busy, he's busy. He picks up Finn. We still talk when we need to,
Hmm.
but it's just all right. We have a kid together.
Okay. And so how are his parents? Are they good grandparents to Finnegan?
Phineas. Yes,
I'm sorry. Did I say? I thought you said his name was Finnegan.
Phineas.
Oh my gosh. Why did I wrote Finnegan?
You know what I think you did? I think you combined Logan and Phineas.
Gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm so sorry. Where did I come up with Finnegan? I've been writing. Well, I wrote Finn and then I wrote Finnegan earlier. Oh my
You
gosh.
know
Okay.
why? Because I think I don't know. Somebody said Finnegan. You should name him Finnegan, maybe.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So sorry about that. I'm
I
so
think
sorry.
I think they're okay. I mean, my relationship has also changed with them since I got sober. His dad is like really sweet, but then I don't know. They have a weird family dynamic also, I'm starting to realize. Um, so grandma is like very overweight, very overweight. And he doesn't really treat her that great. Like
Who doesn't treat her great?
Finn's dad, Jay.
Oh, okay.
Like he doesn't really like regard her feelings too much. I mean, she's definitely depressed, like definitely. But she hasn't really worked either. So it's like she's stuck in the house all the time. And I guess he tries to like tell her how to like live her life. And then he gets mad. And so the respect level there is just like non existent. I just hope that my kid doesn't is not seeing that interaction. So that is like one of the things that I yeah, because he's the only so Jay's the only one left in the house. So he's one of four. Two are in Seattle, one moved out, and he's the only one left.
It'd probably be healthier when he leaves the house, right? And then he wouldn't have to see the interaction between Jay and the mom.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So there was something else I was going to go to. Hold on one second.
Sure.
Oh, the rejection thing. You said you have a rejection issue and asking help. Do you want to find out if there's trapped emotion of rejection anywhere? Okay.
Yeah. Also fear of success and fear of failure.
Okay. Okay. We'll do those.
So many questions.
Okay. She has a fear of success. Why is this? And what can you do to help her with this? And then same question, but with fear, with the failure.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, my ear just started ringing really bad. What the heck?
There you go.
Right. Yeah, instead of finding feathers, I get ear ringing. It's like really, really bad ringing though. What in the world? Okay. Um, and there was another question that came to mind that I thought would be really good for you. Let me find it.
Okay.
One second. Because it came up when you were talking about, hold on. You feel like your whole life has been a lot of hard work. It would be nice to just not have to work so hard, but you're learning how to balance that. So question. So when you say that, do you mean, does this resonate? Does it mean that you feel like kind of life is a struggle?
Yeah, just like so many life lessons. Why?
Right.
Why
Okay.
so many lessons?
Okay.
And it's never just like where you're in an isolated situation and then you have some time to process and say, okay, like that was, this is what I got from that. Whereas for me, I feel like it's always been this sort of like, after one ends, like literally another one is starting and another one.
Okay. So she has a belief that life is a struggle and a lot of hard work. Um, does this belief belong to just her, or is it generational?
Oh.
Right. And the reason I asked that is just because being in this chair, I've seen it before. And this was several years ago where um, it was the first time I had ever experienced, because it was when I first got started. It was the first time I had ever experienced someone's ancestors showing up and literally like me hearing them and hearing like this group. And I was just like, what's going on here? And and I was like, what's going on? And then I just heard the word ancestors, ancestors, ancestors. So I asked the person under hypnosis, are your ancestors here? And the answer was yes. I'm like, and then I heard they want healing. But I asked, I said, so what is it that they want? And the answer from the person was they want healing. And I said, okay, what do they want healing from?
Right.
And they wanted healing from the belief that life is a struggle. So,
Wow.
yeah, through her higher self, we offered the healing of the belief that life is a struggle to all of her ancestors backward and forward and to her. So before we do the session in the afternoon, this is something I learned. It's called theta healing. It doesn't matter, but so I go up and set the scene spiritually in this place called the seventh plane, which is Creator's pure love and light, right? And I imagine you on this little like operating table, right?
I love it.
You're the subject. And then we have your guides, your angels, ascended masters if they want to be there, my guides, my higher self, my angels. And then I also invite any ancestors of yours that want to be there to observe and pick up on any healing you receive and also offer it to them for any of them that want it. So they have the choice whether to accept and receive that healing or not. It's free will, right? They can reject it and be like, oh no, I'm going to struggle with that a few more lifetimes, right? Or they can pick it up and they can receive it. So we'll offer this also. I'm going to say
Okay.
we'll offer it to your ancestors if it's generational. If generational,
I have a feeling that it is.
can you? I think with a lot of people's families, just because life is just on earth, it's just so heavy and dense. I think a lot of generations think of farmers, right? I mean, life is a struggle. It's
Yeah.
working, right?
And I'm starting to realize that like it doesn't have to be that way.
We're getting there. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
We're getting there. We're gonna hold that thought. Hold on. Don't let that thought go though. Don't let that
Okay.
thought go because that was my next place I was going. Is if it's generational, can you, or not, or
Mm.
not. So if it's generational, can you heal this for both Lily and her ancestors who would like to receive this, both backwards, and offer it to generations forward, including her son? Because we don't want him to think that life is a struggle.
Hell no.
We want him to have a beautiful life, right? Ooh, another question I just thought of. What other healing could be offered to her ancestors that would benefit them, her, her son, and any of his offspring? And can you do that now? How about that? That'll help him. Isn't
Yes.
that awesome?
Also, can we pause?
I'm sorry?
Can we pause?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Pause the video. I'm a little slow on the uptake. Hold on. Okay, so now we're back. Took a little break. So the last question I have was, what other healing can be offered to her ancestors that would benefit them, her son, and any of his offspring? I meant, right?
Yes.
His offspring. Can you do that now? And I always say, can you do that now and show her what that looks like, and then describe for us what you're doing as you do it. So I like to hear, so you can
That's cool.
listen to the recording later and see what that sounds like. So, okay, so we left off, let me go to the notes, with me botching your son's name and then getting straight. And then, oh, about the child support. You had resentment over asking him for money, but now that's all resolved and took away a lot of tension.
Yes.
Okay, and that life was difficult. Oh, I thought there was one more question I was going. Oh, I said remind me. Where were we going? Oh,
So,
learning
go ahead.
lessons. Learning lessons through joy versus learning life lessons through struggle, right?
Yes.
Because that has been the typical way that us and our ancestors and basically how the matrix works, right? When we're in the matrix, that's what we're taught and led to believe, and that's kind of almost like a generational expectation, is that we learn our lessons through suffering and trauma and all of that. But when you wake up, you can realize and make the conscious choice to decide that you want to learn all of your lessons through joy, right? And that's a big part of something I referred to briefly earlier called theta healing also, is that realizing we can learn all of our lessons through joy. So how about if we ask a question like this? She no longer wants to learn lessons on earth through suffering, trauma, and drama. I can spell trauma
X.
and drama. She would like to learn all future lessons through joy. What can you tell her? How can you help her, and what can you tell her? How can you help her? And what can you tell her to make this a quote unquote reality, right?
Yes.
Well, on this earth plane. What does she need to do? What can you do to help give her a boost? I like that. I use that a lot now. Can you just give her a boost in this area? So if your higher self ever comes up and says, well, I can't do that, but she can do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, but can you give her a boost? It's like, can you help the girl just a
Just
little?
a little bit.
Right? Just give
Not
her
a
a boost.
lot.
Right? If you want her to do it on her own, just, give her a little nudge in the right direction. Give her a little energetic,
Yes.
Okay, is that a good one?
It's a good one. That's a very good one.
And then I have a question. It is theta healing based down below that's very related to that, and I found it earlier. Let me pull it up. It is, first I'm going to ask if you have any, and then I'll tell you what I mean in just 1 second.
Okay.
So, copy. I'm going to pull this up here. Question is, does she have receptors in her body, in her cells, for pain, shock, trauma, and drama, right? And if yes, are you able to close them and give her an abundance of receptors for joy? How's that?
Perfect.
Pretty related. And then what other receptors would be good for this person to have for their best and highest good? And can you create those receptors in their body for them now?
That's good.
Oh my goodness, you're coming to say hi? Here, say hi. Say hi to Zolile. Come here. Come here, say hi.
Hi, friend. Oh my
Hi.
God.
Say hi. Say
That's so
hi.
cute.
My baby. That's my baby Shadow. She's my soulmate. Oh my gosh.
My kid so wants a dog, wants a husky specifically.
Oh, really? Okay, so here's what you do you know about Huskies or no?
I know that they're extra.
Super. Well, actually, we got super lucky with him. He's so chill for a husky, and he has lots of husky friends, so I know huskies, right? But he's like a super chill husky. And I think it started with the fact that we got him from the homeless shelter, right?
Hmm.
And he was already fully trained when we got him. So he was a year and a half old ish when we got him. And one day he was acting a little out of control at the dog park. So I met this guy with the husky and he started telling me, get a shock collar. Not to use the shock, but to use the vibrate, right? On the
Right.
highest level, vibrate. Because they have so much thick fur, you got to have it on the highest level. And you got to have the extra long prongs, right? You can't use the little tiny prongs. It's got to touch their skin. As soon as I put that shock collar on him, he was a different dog. And I was like, and the guy looked at me and said, he's shock collar trained because he like laid down at my feet and he didn't want to go play. Like he was just
Wow.
fear. Oh, not fear, but yeah, kind of. So I think they may have actually shocked him, the previous owners, whoever they were, right? So he was a different dog. So I had to actually like teach him that mom's not going to shock you. Yeah, we're just going to
Oh,
vibrate just to give you a little catch your attention and remind you that, hey, you need to calm down a little bit. You're getting a little extra with those dogs over there, right? So, but he already knew how to shake and sit and all that kind of stuff. So it was really
that's
cool.
nice.
But so I think training when they're young, and his dog was also trained really young. His dog is actually, it's unheard of for a husky to be off leash trained because they are runners. Like
They are runners.
you have to constantly chase down huskies. He's gotten away in my heart, like I die a thousand deaths while I'm trying to find him, right? Because I can't handle it, the thought. But so you have like if you could do something like off leash train him or get him off leash trained when he's young, oh my God, like that will save so much stress and trauma and drama right there and let you have joy with a husky.
Well, I have a dog now. So he's like gonna be 13. He's a schnoodle. He's a yeah, Schnauzer poodle mix. So I got him when he was a puppy. And like it's been great. And then I got pregnant and then he was like, F you, you're a traitor. So he's just kind of been very different since I had my son. Um, and my son like wants him so bad. He's like, I just want to hug him and love him, but I don't think he likes me. I'm like, he's just really old. And he has diabetes. So it's like adding a whole nother layer to that. This is what I mean by like my life sometimes just being like so extra. Like what are the chances that you would get a schnoodle who is diagnosed with diabetes, who is on human insulin plus prescription food? It's like every single time there's something. There's just something. But he's cute. He's old. He's just sleeping now.
Right. Well, and huskies also, they need a ton of exercise. So either a fenced yard and lots of walks, but I take him for a minimum hour and a half walk every day. And that's when I do my walking meditation. So I talk with my guides and my higher self, but um yeah, they need a lot of exercise because if you don't, they will rip your house apart. Like they will destroy furniture. And luckily, like I said, he's calm. He doesn't do that, but I know a lot of other huskies that do.
Would, yeah.
And most huskies can't be around cats either. But because of his temperament, I do have cats. And
Wow.
he's okay with them. But other people at the dog park tell me how their huskies killed their cats. So yeah, like they killed them. So and they'll like when you're walking them, it'll be just like squirrel and they're just like boom, like this. So you got to make sure you're
Holy
always
crap.
like tight grip on there. Always. And never use never use one of those leashes that like retractable
The
leashes.
retractable ones?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because if the dog happens to go after a cat that just randomly appears and shoot off and you forget your mind
To
and you
tighten it.
grab the retractable leash and it slips through your hand, it will leave a really deep,
Oh.
big slice in your hand.
Are you speaking from experience?
Yes. I came home with this big gash in the middle of my hand, and it was so incredibly painful because it was that cloth ripping through the center of my, and
Yeah.
it was bleeding all over. And I came home and I was like, okay, here's my spiritual self. I'm like putting pressure on it,
Oh
right? And I'm just like, okay, let's just step aside from the pain. Let's just step aside. Like, how do I disassociate and detach from this pain and put the pain over there and me over here, and then I don't feel it, right? Like, so I'm like experimenting.
my God.
It helped a little bit, but it was so incredibly painful. Oh my God. But anyway, yeah, don't do that. If you can ask,
No, no.
don't use a retractable leash. I threw that thing away and I never touched a retractable leash since
I'm
then.
not a fan. And after a while, it just stops
Yeah,
like
right.
clamping.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we don't use those anymore. Anyway, okay. So we got off on that funny trail. Sorry. So, does she have any receptors in her body for pain, shock, trauma, and drama? And if yes, are you able to close them and give her an abundance of receptors for joy? And what other receptors, if any, would be good for her best and highest good? And could you create those in her body now? Okay, so anything going on in the man territory now with you or has been, or do you have any questions in that regard?
No.
Okay.
I
No
think I
questions about it? You don't have
mean,
to.
I
I'm
mean,
just
I
curious.
guess we can ask. I mean, there's always a part of me that's very curious.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I feel like I've gotten to the point where I'm almost like comfortable with, because I've done a lot of work. I've just been really comfortable with just being with me. Um, so if it does, I would like for it to come. I would love to be in a relationship. That would be nice. But I'm also just not like I'm not really looking for it.
Right. You're not, they would have to add, like I've seen TikToks about this before where the woman is saying, and I totally feel this way too, like you have to actually, I have to like being with you better than I like being with myself in order to give my time that I love having with me because I
Yeah.
like me and I like being with me to give some of that to you. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So, do you want me to ask something like this? Like, is there a partner out there that she has a soul contract with? Um, that's first of all. Um, or what? Help me formulate it. Or what?
Or am I just supposed to have a sperm bank baby?
So you want another baby, right?
I I mean, it's exhausting, but I just don't see my kid being an only child.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Um, at least like one. And I mean, I know you can, it's 2021 and you don't have to, not have a kid after 40, but I mean, I would prefer if they were at least like, not that far apart in age.
Right. Okay. Does she have a soul contract to have another baby? Right? You want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. And is there a partner out there that she has a soul contract with and will have a child with? And obviously, based upon the first answer, I'll tailor that second part. If you're not meant to have another baby, but if you feel like you are, then you know what I mean. There's a high likelihood you are. Is there a partner out there that she has a soul contract with? And if yes, will they have a child together? What can you tell her in order to prepare for this future relationship? Like how to basically get yourself ready energetically or whatever it is, right? If there
Yeah.
is one there for you. Sound good? Anything else you want to add to that?
No. Maybe. Only
Okay.
because I know I'm not good at receiving at all.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I struggle with that a lot. I mean, and I think that is what kind of puts that like other layer up that I'm not. So then I don't want to be vulnerable. But I think that also goes back to this whole rejection thing as well. I don't know.
I think a good question might be with related to that is if you have a heart wall.
Yeah. I've been
Okay.
trying to
So
work on it in meditation and stuff, but I think it's less heavy.
yeah. So does she have a heart wall? And if yes, what is it made out of?
Hmm.
And can you remove it?
Okay.
Um, and that has to do with the vulnerability. So let me ask as a follow-up, will this positively impact her ability to be more vulnerable um, with men and others in general, right?
Yes.
And I have yet to come across someone who doesn't have even if it's like a paper thin heart wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, okay. Okay, where are we going next?
I don't know. Where can we go?
Oh, job. We didn't talk on job. Like, what are you doing for work now, if anything?
So I work as a intake paralegal for like a nonprofit. So I talk to people all day.
Okay.
Um, and then like I basically just schedule them with the attorneys that could advise them. So I've been
Okay.
doing that since like February of 2020. Um, so I've always been sort of like in the helping field. That's always been like my thing. When I got out of college, I worked at a men's homeless shelter and then I left there and I um, was a case manager for adolescents with mental health and all that. And then now I'm doing this. So there's always been some sort of like, me being of service somehow. Um,
And so
I
are you happy where you are? Feel like, yeah, this is where I feel like I want to be right now. Do you not? Are you not? Like, do you feel like what's your kind of thinking career wise? Do you have any questions about it? I'm not saying you have to. I'm just curious if you do.
mean, I've always kind of felt like so I was initially I wanted to be a doctor. That didn't work out because you need to be good at science. I didn't I, and so that was my first year of college because I was like overachiever and it just didn't make sense why I didn't do well. And then my parents threatened to not send me back to school because of my grades unless I changed my major. So then I was like, fine, I'll just go be a lawyer or something. Like literally.
Right.
So I've always had this idea, like, all right, I'll go to law school and I'll do something in like education or immigration. Like that was my thing. That is hard. Apparently the like studying for the test was hard. I can't even tell you how many times I applied and I was rejected from everyone, waitlisted from one, and then eventually didn't get in. So I just was like, well, I guess I'll just keep working. I mean, I don't know what else to do. Then I thought about being a social worker and going to the MSW program. Um, but again, I was told like you have really great work experience, but something about my GPA. Meanwhile, it's been like 10 years since I've been out of college, plus 10 plus years. So I'm just kind of working. I don't know what I want to do. Like I like helping people and people seem are very attracted to me, and will tell me everything about themselves and all I said was how are you, or
Right.
like hi. Like today I went to go get my oil changed. And I found out about his dad wanting to divorce his mom. He's 43, getting married. His dad's going through some like, but that's how it is,
Right.
you know?
Very
So
open, right?
very, very open. And so work is fine. I mean, I think I do a good job. I enjoy talking to people, but it's very draining at the end of the day. But I've really learned how to like release that energy at the end of the day because I do know that I absorb people's shit and you know um but I realize that working is whack. I mean, it's good, it's necessary. I need it. I need to work, but I feel like it just takes away from time that I could be trying to figure out like what I want to do or spending quality time with my son. Um yeah, so it's just kind of like
Okay.
this necessary evil that
Okay, so um
that
she
was a
has
lot.
a belief, yeah, she has a belief that she needs to work. Do you have a belief that you need to work in the matrix, or do you believe that you could have something maybe even outside, like a typical matrixy cubicle job that would be fulfilling to you?
I don't think that I I can't be confined. If that makes
Which
like I can't be in like an office or a cubicle. I can't do that all day. I mean, I do it
okay.
now because I have to.
I was gonna
But
say, how do you, because at a law firm, that's pretty typical cubicle
well,
work.
I have my own office, so I'm in my office. I go twice a week now, but I'm there like all day. But the job I
Right.
had before, I was actually traveling. So I would drive to people's houses and like so I'd be in their environment. And to me that was nice because I had the flexibility to kind of do what I needed to do in between or wanted to do in between. Um and like to me that I felt a little bit more independent. Um, Whereas now it's just I feel slightly trapped, but it's nice to have the quiet time. I don't know. I'm all over the place with that one, but yeah. If I could have anything, ideally, it would just like I would like the flexibility of just oh, what does that mean?
Right? Of flow.
A flow, flexibility.
Flexibility and flow.
Yeah.
Flexibility and flow in her work. Okay, so I put that as a note. So let me go over to the questions and let's formulate this into a question. So, what kind of activity slash work would be a great fit for her and bring her joy and fulfillment? What does that look like? What would she be doing? And how can she get there? Is it good?
Yes.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay. All right. So we talked about career, we talked about romantic versus non-romantic relationships. Any areas that we did not cover yet?
I don't think so.
Um, okay, so let's go through my list of questions that I sent you and see if we can come up with any ideas to add a few more. We have a room for a few more. Not many, but just a few. So if we look through these, let's see if we can find anything that would be. Oh, okay. Sorry. So you can also ask questions about anything going on the planet or like current events or whatever, anything with regarding any current events, anything on the planet. You can ask about, other lives on other planets. What's your favorite planet? Like, let me see some of the curiosity questions. If I go in curiosity questions in that category on my list, or spiritual. Oh, do your spirit guides have any messages for you? Does your future self have any messages for you? Do you want to know anything like that or no, or save it for other questions?
Um, I guess we can, yeah, I guess let's do more spiritual stuff.
Okay. Or I'm sorry, I
That's
thought
okay.
of this one earlier and then I forgot about it. It was, the question I had for you was if you wanted to ask, where is that one? Is it beliefs? Oh, does this person fully trust herself or is there healing that could occur in this regard? Because I know at one point you said I couldn't even trust myself and my decisions. Do you still feel that way or do you feel like, yeah, I'm good on that?
Oh, I'm not good at that. I'm a work in progress.
Oh, okay. So the question on my list is, and we can tweak it if you want this one, is does this person fully trust herself or is there healing that could occur in this regard?
No, that's good.
And if so, we'd ask your higher self, obviously, to heal it. And what about just kind of first impressions if you feel like this might be something you'd want to have? Does this person fully trust the universe or is there healing that could occur in this regard? You want that one? Does this person fully trust others or is there healing that could occur in this regard? Okay. I thought there were four. One, two. Oh, does this person fully trust life or is there healing that could occur in this regard? All four, or which ones would you like?
Trust life.
Yeah. The universe kind of covers that one, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, let's leave that.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me pull those up. And that was like kind of like a little bell that went off in me earlier when you were talking about not even trusting yourself. And I was like, ooh, I need to go back to that one. Um, okay. I think those will be really good for you.
Yes.
Um, and then we asked about the heart wall. Do you want this one? Can you align this person's vibration to the frequencies of love, peace, and joy?
Yeah.
Or,
Why not?
or if there's another one you like better, because we really probably only have room for like two more. So
Okay.
tell me, because you were kind of like, eh. So let's see if there's any you would want more. Um, oh, what about this one? Is this person living their best life now, fully and completely, or is something holding them back? And what is that something, and what can they do to live in the now more fully and completely?
That's good, actually.
Because it's super open-ended,
Yeah.
right?
One is good.
Or similar to this one is what can this person do to be more whole and complete? Which one do you like better? And
The
they're pretty
last,
similar.
the one before
The
that.
second one?
Yeah.
Oh, the one before that. Okay. Let me copy and paste this one. I actually really love this question.
I think it's great.
Back down. And if you see any that jump out at you, if you're looking at the list, let me know.
Okay. So are there certain, I mean, I guess it really depends on how the conversation goes. But are there just like a set number of questions that you'll try to target for each sort of category?
So I try to go down the list, but it
Okay.
doesn't always happen because I guess we all have gifts, right? So I'll
Yeah.
just say that I've discovered that in doing this, my gift is to really like, because I set the intention to, right? Is really just completely open my mind and take all of my thoughts out of it and just really I just hear, and I don't even know where these questions are coming from. They're just like flowing. And so I usually happen to cover all of these questions, but they might not be in the order. Like that's before I get started, I have this as my base, but then the questions just come and they kind of just tail off of one after the other. They all just kind of run together.
Yeah.
And then I noticed that I've asked almost all of them, but I have the list here to go back to just in case I missed any.
Okay.
So that's kind of how it works. So let me see. And it's usually about a page and a half single space typed is what we have time for. So we're at that limit now, but just in case we have time for one more, I want to find one more. I always try to push it.
I definitely had questions about like spiritual gifts.
Oh, okay. So tell me what you mean.
Like, because clearly I know that there's something going on here. And as I've kind of been more open spiritually, like, I mean, obviously the damn feathers. Um,
Oh,
but it's just kind of like I don't know like what I should be doing.
okay.
Sort of a thing in that aspect. Sometimes I'll hear things, but I mean, most of my stuff is dream based because I think that they must know that I'm freaking terrified. And I'm working on that of like not being so afraid,
Okay.
but I know that they're like moving very gingerly so that you know,
Okay. So, okay, I like all that. Let me formulate that into a question.
sure.
So, what spiritual gifts and abilities did she come to experience in this lifetime for herself? And well, obviously for yourself in this lifetime. And what can she do to develop them further? And then question mark, and can you remove any fear she has around the whole idea of spirituality and spiritual things? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Because a lot of this too, I realize that as you were just kind of, writing that down, I think the last time I probably remember having sort of um like the audio was when I was about 11, and I think I went to go tell my parents about it. They probably freaked out and they probably said something because I never heard them again.
Mm,
Um, and also with especially like with my side of the family, like both sides, like there's a lot of spiritual healers, more specifically on my mom's side. I don't know about my dad's side, but they're very like sort of afraid of that because people don't use it for good and it's just to get ahead. And so I'm you know I don't know, so I feel like I probably had a high level of like this connection when I was younger, which is probably why I don't remember much of my childhood. That's what I think. That something happened where like literally all of that is gone. And here I am at 35 trying to figure that shit out.
okay, so I worded the question what I said in the beginning, and then I said, did her parents impact her ability to not hear from the other side? And if yes, what can she do to reopen that and hear from her guides and higher self more clearly?
Yep.
Is that good? And then the last question I always ask is if she takes all of the information from this session and incorporates it into her life, how will her life be different compared to what it would have been like had she not done this session? And the reason I ask that is because it's to scare you. No, it's to let you know. Okay, how I explain it is this, and someone else's higher self started this whole thing. Well, I had it in the intake conversation, and her higher self was like, "Yes, this is exactly what it is." That um, to to develop your spiritual gifts and all of this, like to be in touch more spiritually, it's going to the gym. You don't just do something one time. So if you
Right.
want the hot bod, you got to go to the gym regularly, right? You want the hot bod, you want the muscles. So it's the same thing spiritually. And that's what this person's higher self is like. Exactly. It's exactly like that. So when we do all these things, so this is just you're just meeting with a personal trainer for the day, right? That's what this is, right?
Right.
But you're not going to get the hot spiritual bod just by meeting with a personal trainer one time. And that's sometimes I'm seeing that with people who are reaching out to me for sessions, and it's like, ooh, that would be cool and interesting, and I'm all curious about that, but they're really not serious about it at that point in their life anyway. This is like a dose of veggies, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
going to help you strengthen your body, but you can't just eat vegetables once and think you're going to have this great body and great health, and or go to the gym one time when meet with a personal trainer one time, right? So it has to be part of an overall like comprehensive plan of working out. And so going to the gym involves like meditating, self-talk, positive self-talk, affirmations, spending time in nature. Huge one I just learned in a session the other day. I definitely have to make a video about this one. But for anyone who feels like they just have layers of grief or sorrow or just need to shed things, sitting with your back against a tree and having your hands on the roots of the tree. The trees are amazing. They actually absorb those layers of depression or grief or sadness, and they transmute it in their roots and in their trunk into beautiful energy that can be recycled, I guess. It's amazing. It could be walking barefoot, spending time in the sun. My huge newest favorite, having the sun, fill you with vitamin, setting the intention. And it does it anyway, I've been told under hypnosis. It strengthens your bones, rebuilds your muscles. It can give you vitamins and nutrients and minerals and even hydration.
Wow.
Like I told you, my guides told me one day, they're like, flip over and we want the sun to work on your back, repairing any degenerative changes in your spine and replacing the fluid and getting that all back nice in alignment and perfect. And, just so many things the sun can do, giving us activations and upgrades and spending time in the sun as much as possible. And just anything, reading, huge one, reading books that will broaden your mind. Course in Miracles is a phenomenal read. It's just like you could just spend the rest of your life in that book and never get everything that's in it. So just all those types of things, and talking to your guides, your higher self, all those things, trying to be in tune. um, and then all of those incorporate going to the spiritual gym. And that's why I asked that question at the end. If you take all this information and incorporate, how's your life going to be different? So what that would also mean, part of your spiritual gym would be going back to the notes
Mm.
and the recording and following the incredible wisdom and advice that you're going to get from your higher self on, this is a map for your life. Like, we're literally giving you a cheat sheet right here on what you can do and how you can do it. And if you take it, your life is obviously going to be way different, but how is it going to be different? And so that's why I like to know. So it motivates you maybe to be like, yes, let me go back and review these notes. When I had something like this done, I was using those notes all the time. I used them like they were in front of me all the time. And I was just like getting so much encouragement and everything from them. And it really helped with my spiritual growth. So this just really needs to be one little piece in that whole workout that you're going to do. This is just one serving of veggies.
Awesome. I love it.
Yes. So now I'm going to give you just a little uh, 5 or 10 minutes on what to expect when you're under hypnosis. Okay. So, and there is an amazing, amazing book called I Am, I Create by Erin Worley. It's Werley for anyone who's listening. I have so many books, and this one jumped to the top of the pile of all of them. And it's not a long read, it's an easy read. And it actually breaks down this concept plus, more. But there are two parts of us, just speaking, and this is very general. It's not, there's many more parts to us, and our souls, our multidimensional and all that, but we're putting all of that aside and we're looking just at you, your soul right here, right now, this part of your soul. And you have many other parts of your soul off doing other things, right? But this part that I'm talking to right here, right now, there's really two aspects. There is Zolile, right, who is the personality, all of the beliefs and judgments and interpretations and perceptions and everything that you have. And you have this one life. So it is true, YOLO, you only live once, right? Because Zolile only lives once. Because before, your soul has also been Bob and Judy and Fred and Henry and Harry and Susan and Becky and all these other costumes that you've worn and personalities that you've had. You've had completely different families and upbringings and beliefs and cultures and customs and everything, right? But Zolile is only this one time. And so Zolile is what you've identified with most of your life because you didn't know any better. That was you. That was the persona, personality, ego, whatever you want to call it, the persona that was created for you to experience this walk on earth, right? And have all these learning experiences that you've had. And so you can choose to identify more in your life with Zolile if you want, but you wouldn't be on a spiritual journey if that's all you wanted, right? Like you wouldn't be there. Those people are just not even interested in spirituality. They just totally want to be their persona. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? That's their journey. That's where they are. That's what they want. Cool. That's not what I want, right? And I don't think it's what you want or you wouldn't be here. So, and then the other part of us is our higher self, our authentic self, our God self, our genuine self, whatever you want to call it, right? We're calling it higher self for this session. I love the term authentic self or God self. But there's these two parts. And at every moment in our lives, we have a choice in everything that we do. Are we going to go on the treadmill? Or are we going to go on the stair climber, right? Are we going to eat vegetables? Or are we going to eat that Twinkie? Are we going to, right, whatever, right? Am I going to blow up at my son for what he just did? Or am I going to pause, make a conscious choice, and lead with love, right? That was advice from someone's higher self the other day. Last messages, her higher self said, lead with love in everything you do, right? So am I going to blow up at him or am I going to lead with love? Am I going to get frustrated and angry with my mom or am I going to lead with love? And so we have that choice. And sometimes we make it so fast, it doesn't feel like we had a choice. It was just like, well, that was just my instinct. You know, I just did that. But no, you did have a choice, right? So it's becoming conscious of our choice points and deciding, do I want to see this situation and life in general through the eyes of Zolile, or do I want to see it through my authentic self or my God self? And so, given that we have these two parts, talking very simplistically again, under hypnosis, Zolile can make a decision what's going to happen to her in this hypnosis session. The first group, there's three primary types I see of how people react when they're under hypnosis. The first one is Zolile will be like, yo, I'm checking out. I don't need to be here for this. Like, you just have your thing with your authentic self, your God self, and I'll catch you later, right? When you're done. And so you're going to think that you fell asleep during the session, if that's you, because you're not going to consciously remember what was said because Zolile, the conscious mind, checked out. Obviously, you're not sleeping because you're going to be talking to me.
Right.
So the fact that people say, oh, I fell asleep under hypnosis is not true. I mean, unless you truly do fall asleep, which doesn't happen, but, you know, because we're talking the whole time. But you may feel like you fell asleep and that's fine. That's awesome. Zolile just completely checked out and that's great. And people a lot of times wish that or hope that that's them when they're under hypnosis. The second type of person, they think they were awake and aware and conscious the entire session because what Zolile did was she would kind of come in and listen in on the session and then she'd get bored and she'd leave and check out. And then she'd kind of come back and she'd listen a little bit and then she'd get bored and she'd leave again. So she was like in and out. Your conscious mind is in and out. And so when you come out of it, you're like, oh yeah, I remember everything. Like, and then I'll review with you a little bit and you'll be like, I said that? Like, I don't remember saying that. And I don't remember saying that. So I'm like, oh, okay. So you were the one who kind of came in and out. And so while your conscious mind was there, you were like, oh yeah, I'm fully aware, but obviously you weren't, right? The whole time. The third group is Zoli wanting to participate the entire time and hear everything, which is totally fine because people seem to think that hypnosis is something that if your conscious mind is there, you're not really under hypnosis. And that's not true because hypnosis, this type of hypnosis anyway, what it is it's you're going into a theta brainwave state. So there's gamma, alpha, beta, theta, right? I may have gotten those in the wrong order. It might be gamma, alpha, but anyway, it's theta. And then delta is when you're sleeping. So you're not sleeping. Obviously, it's a really slow brain wave. Okay. So you're not in delta, you're in theta. And so you're also in theta when you meditate, right? And you know when you're meditating that you're not sleeping because you're meditating. I mean, unless you fall asleep, you know what I mean? That's different. But when you're meditating, you're fully conscious and aware that you're meditating. So it's no different in hypnosis to also be in that same brainwave state and have your conscious mind choose to be there. It just means that Zoli is kind of afraid of letting go and doesn't want to just let things happen without her busybody self being there and acknowledging and seeing everything that's going on. The challenge for the person under hypnosis is if Zoli gets obnoxious when she's there. Okay. So sometimes Zoli just wants to be there and hear and observe everything that's going on. And that's totally fine. Don't think that you're not under hypnosis just because I'm going to slow your brainwave state down so low and get you into a meditative state that you will be under. Okay. And so you want to just go with the first answer that comes in your head. You don't want to analyze it. You don't want to think about it. You just go with whatever comes in your head. First thought, first impressions. Okay. Because Zoli lives in the conscious brain, right? And if she has her druthers, she's going to try to analyze it, interpret it, and say, this doesn't make sense. I'm seeing blah, 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 but that doesn't make sense because that can't possibly be. And my comment back to you is going to be, don't analyze it. Don't interpret it. Just tell me what you're seeing, right? So you want to imagine that there's like your higher self is like this brilliant ball of wisdom and light above you, and that you have like this tube of light going straight down your inside your head that can't be messed with in the brain, and the answers are just coming out like a gumball out of a gumball machine. They're just flowing out. Okay, so that's kind of the picture you want to remember and go with it. And the more you sink into it, the more you're going to realize, I think I really am under hypnosis because I don't know where these answers are coming from. Like, this isn't me. And the funny comment that I get a lot of times, including my session yesterday, I was reading some of her answers back to her because, again, I'm typing notes the whole time you're talking. I was reading it back to her and she goes, yeah, that's not how I talk. And I would never be able to explain that so eloquently. So that definitely wasn't me, even though her conscious mind was fully there the whole time. And she remembered everything. She's like, I remember that, but I don't remember saying it like that because you're getting images and basically ideas like dropped in your head and then you're explaining them to me, right? If Zoli is obnoxious and tries to sit there and convince you that you're making all this up, you're not really under, why do you even think this is going to work? You already know the answers to that. You know, this is a bunch of bull crap, like blah, 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 whatever. Aren't you hungry? Doesn't your leg itch? You know, whatever Zoli is trying to say to you. You're going to have just a little extra challenge of just imagining that you're on a stage and there's a microphone in the middle and the microphone is for the higher self and you want to hear from the higher self, but Zoli keeps coming over and grabbing the microphone going, no, you're not going to hear this, right? Give me 1 second. I'm sorry, my daughter just walked in.
Sure.
And so here, write me a note. And so you want to imagine that you're asking Zoli firmly to go sit on the side of the stage behind the curtain, lean back in that comfy chair on the side of the stage, recline it back, get an umbrella drink, relax, chill, just be there and listen. And that after the session, so this is a conversation you're going to have with Zoli on the break also. So this is where this comes in. tell Zolile, you don't know how she's going to react. You'd love it if she would just check out and let this happen, right? But if she insists on being there, you really need her to let you do this in peace. But if there's a true emergency, i.e., the house is burning down, right?
Right.
A true emergency, please come and wake me up and save my life and get me out of the house. But other than that, if it's not something to that level, just please leave me be in peace and let's do this. And then afterwards, Zolile, you and I can get together and we can decide what from this session we want to keep, what resonates, and what we don't want to keep, and what doesn't resonate. And we'll make that decision together. So I'm not trying to pull one over on you, Zolile. I'm not trying to control you or anything like that. You've been my partner and my best friend and me for the last, 35 years. But let's just see what happens and what is said. And then if she gets really obnoxious, tell her you're going to, tie her hands to the chair and tape her mouth shut. And then you'll have to picture that. So I just give everyone all this coaching and advice about this just in case that third scenario is you. Not saying it will be, but just in case, so you know how to handle it. And if you feel at any point like, wow, she's coming in really strong and she's impeding me giving answers, tell me that. And then we'll kind of go through that whole scenario of asking her to sit down together. Like I'll verbally do that and you can imagine it, and we'll set Zolile down in the side of the stage. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Have that so there's 3 things you need to do on this break. Have that conversation with her and say, I'm not trying to get rid of you. Like, you've been me and you've helped me navigate life to this point, but there's also been a lot of pain, trauma, drama, and suffering, right? So how cool would it be to learn a way to experience the rest of life with more joy? So let's just see what my higher self has to say, and maybe we can learn some new skills that you and I can both navigate together with that, and almost like merge more closely to being the higher self. Not necessarily killing the ego or getting rid of Zolile, right? The personality, but just merging more with your higher self, right? So that's the first thing I want you to do. The second thing is have a meeting with your spirit team and just say, spirit team meeting, everybody here, I just want you to know I'm going to be doing this session. I'd love everyone's help to make it a great session. And if we've missed any questions or there's anything else that comes up, please communicate it to Tracy so it can come up in the session. I'm totally open to hearing whatever you guys want me to hear. So that's what I want you to tell your spirit team, and that you want them to be there. And then the third thing is, what I want you to do is just briefly picture you being at the end of this session, but don't imagine anything that happened during the session. So here we are at the beginning. We have this gap in the middle of the session, but I want you to jump over that session and get to the end and just be in the feeling and the emotion of everything is perfect, because it is, right? And everything happened exactly like it was supposed to. So no matter what happens, whether it was you picked up some nuggets and got more insight, or, inside, revelation or whatever about your life in general from the intake, maybe that was a big part of what you were supposed to get out of this, or answers you get or don't get in the session, just know that everything is perfect and happened exactly like it was supposed to be. Okay, so those 3 things over our lunch. So I'm going to stop the recording now, and then for anyone watching, they'll be able to pick up and look at your actual hypnosis session. So I will put you under before I hit the record button. So they're going to miss all the verbiage, but they'll be able to pick up right when you're under and watch the hypnosis session. So I'm going to stop the recording right now.